Welcome to the Grounds for Success podcast. I'm your host, Austin Seltzer. Together, we'll unveil the keys to success in the music industry. Join me as I explore my guests' life stories and experiences to uncover practical insights to help you align with your goals more effectively. Hey, coffee drinkers. Welcome to the Grounds for Success podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe so we can update you with what's going on in our world. Today on the podcast, I have Yazzie from the amazing electronic group Krewella. If you guys have been in the electronic world for a while, Krewella was one of the first groups to really pop off in the electronic space that also branched into like the pop world. I mean, they had a song on the radio, so they really touched a lot of lives, and they have been intertwined in my life for quite a while, and we talk about it on this podcast. So I'm excited for you to listen to that. On this episode, we're obviously going to talk about Krewella. We're going to talk about Krewella from the very inception till now, where they're on a hiatus, but we'll discuss kind of all the intricacies of their story and how they got to where they are. We will also talk about how all along the way they failed forward. What I mean by that is if they had an idea, they didn't just overanalyze and think, how can we continuously one-up ourselves before putting out an idea? They just did it. And I think that's so important. We will also talk about how whenever the pandemic happened, Yazzie was finally able to slow down. She had been going her entire adult life with Krewella. She finally had a moment to take a second and chill and really work on her mental health, her health overall. And I think that was a really beautiful topic that we talked about. We will also talk about this idea that I feel like most creatives talk about is, should I continue to keep my head down and work? Or every now and then, should I lift my head up and smell the roses? It's a really interesting topic because we really dive in on why it's tough to look up and smell the roses. I had a revelation while talking to Yazzie that maybe this podcast is just me talking to others so I can learn about myself through the lens of, their feedback in our talk. It was a pretty meta moment there. We talk about this really interesting story that brings Jake Udell from Third Brain into co-managing Krewella and how that happened. And it involves none other than Skrillex. And so if you're watching this, I'm wearing my little Skrillex shirt. And also it landed in a record deal. Pretty interesting. And finally, I get to talk some, not all, but a lot of my story as someone starting out as a producer that wanted to be an artist, but mostly into production, moving into mixing, and some of the real struggles that I faced, and I'm sure I'm going to face more, but some real big struggles that I faced and how I overcame them, and how I'm sitting in this chair today talking to these really cool guests. So let's get caffeinated. Sweet.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I haven't had a sip yet. I was waiting for you.
Ooh. Yes.
What camera am I looking at?
All of them.
This is an ad placement.
All of the guests in the studio.
Oh, that's good.
Is it?
That's really good. That's amazing.
Is it actually?
It is. It's really good. See, this is the kind of coffee that I probably wouldn't put cream in. This is like, I need it in its pure state. It's really good.
I'm glad. It's going to have a lot of caffeine.
So the problem with this is then I'll just start shaking and chatting like a crazy person.
Let's go.
Okay. So if I look insane, it's the coffee. It's not me.
I love that. So Yazzie told me that she wanted to drink tea because I think that we thought it was going to be after 2, but I didn't realize that she can have caffeine before 2.
I'm so specific.
But then I thought it was going to be tea. But you're like, if you're having coffee, I'm going to have coffee. I was like, hell yeah. And then
Grounds for success. I can't not have coffee with you.
True. I agree. But
you also told me you would funnel it down my throat if I didn't know.
That
sounds so violent, you guys.
That did happen. So she was like, I take a splash of cream, but then I said I'd take mine black, and then you're like, I'll go black. And so here we are, just black coffee, pour over. But
It's good though.
yeah, if you don't finish it, we'll bust out a funnel. And
I already feel like going straight to my heart. Straight to my heart.
I'm doing it out of love, I promise.
I know you are. I know you are. You just want me to get chatty because we're on a podcast. Here we go.
Wait, so I'm curious, what does a normal day in Yazzie's world look like?
Oh, well, it kind of has been different this year because Jahan and I are taking a bit of a sabbatical. Not year, but chunk of time. And so I haven't been in the studio. I've been doing something else that I'm not going to talk about on this podcast because I haven't talked about it at all. You probably know what it is, but I just don't want to talk about it in a public way yet because it feels it's incubating still. I'm creating it still.
I feel like we talked about it, but I'm just going to play dumb.
We'll just mention it later when we're not on the record.
I love that.
But I've been doing something else every day, and it only involves me. It doesn't involve another person. It doesn't involve Jahan. It doesn't involve a team. It is very insular. And I feel like in that process, my life looks completely different right now because I'm revolving completely around myself. So
I love that.
I do have somewhat of a routine in the morning and night, but it's very loose. I think I'm all about just like waking up when my body wants to wake up, moving my body first thing, like sweating, moving, walking, eating a really, really like slow breakfast. I love slow meals where I'm not rushing. I hate that. I hate rushing while eating. It's probably like top 5 worst things for me, for my mental health. Don't want to rush while I eat. And then just spending the rest of the day creating. And then I hope to like spend time with loved ones sprinkled in there. So it's very loose. It's very loose right now. Nothing too specific.
I love that. You're the first person to come on here and talk about moving slow. And I actually really, really appreciate that.
Oh, I spent my whole ass adult life moving so quick that I remember 5% of it. It's really kind of sad for me at this point where I've spent so much of my life truly rushing, like rushing from one thing to the next. And I think it did. Jahan and I were both in the same boat. I know I can speak for her when I say this, but we spent so much time moving quickly and rushing that it was such a detriment on every facet of our lives. Physical health, mental health, the relationships that we love. So moving slow has been so healing for both of us. It's been healing for our relationship with each other, with our relationship with ourselves, our relationship to creativity. It's just, I recommend moving slow, even just a sprinkle of it in your day. Just try it out.
I will. I will. Because
I know you're doing the most. You're juggling a lot, so it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, I'm like you in the mid, like 15, 16, 17, or somewhere around there, probably a little bit earlier. I'm just not at that scale by any means, but I am just putting a little more on my plate than I should. But what I want to make a point is to move slow in the morning.
Big time.
I
Yes.
wake up early. I always do.
Beautiful.
But I'll go through times where I'll do a meditation in the morning and then I'll journal and I'll read a book and then I'll go about the day. But whenever my life gets stressful or I have a lot on my plate, boom, 7:30, I'm like, let's run down to the studio. Let's do some notes. Come on, man. There's a whole day to do that.
I know. And it's a big issue for me because we have the best excuse in the world. Our work is creative. So you always have this thing in the back of your head where you're like, well, I'm my own boss. Well, I have the dream job. You come up with all these different ways to make yourself think like, I should be getting straight to work. Like, I love my job. I love my life. Why wouldn't I spend all my time doing those things? But at the end of the day, it's still work, it still becomes something that we're trying to be compensated for. We're not just doing this as a hobby. Like, we have to put food on the table. We have to pay bills. Like, this is not just, that's the dream though, is like to create as a hobby, but we're not there right now. But putting time aside to just be a human being for like even just 30 minutes before you jump into the work, even if it's something you love, to me, I think is one of the greatest things I've changed about my life.
I love that.
I recommend it.
How did you figure out that you needed to slow down?
It had been happening slowly already. When Jahan and I were working on our last record, Zero, that came out in 2020, right before the pandemic, we had already taken 2019, wow, 2015, wrong year, 2019 to spend most of our time creating that album and slow down on touring, which was the first time in our entire career we had done that. We had usually juggled. Like, I'll go back. My calendar app on my computer has everything from the last decade.
No way.
I'll sometimes go back and look at what my life looked like. And it would be like, I kid you not, play shows like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday, fly home on the first flight out Monday morning and go straight to the studio. Then spend Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes if we didn't have a show, in the studio every single day. But then after the studio, find time to see my dad, find time to spend time with, like, if I was dating someone, spend time with them. No time to literally no time to myself. Jahan was the same exact way. And then just on repeat for years, to the point that in 2019, when we did slow down touring just to focus on creating the best album we could make, because we just wanted to try something different, it was one of those moments where we realized, like, oh, wait, something wasn't working and we were bypassing that. And we were just on autopilot for so much of our life, including like moments that really mattered, like my dad marrying my stepmom, or like us getting like a big chart placement. Like, through all these like big monumental moments, I barely remember them. And it's really sad for me. And I just don't want to live life like that anymore. Jahan and I had a lot of hard conversations where we would have moments where one of us was resisting and the other one was trying to just show the way, or vice versa, because we would both go through kind of different phases. And eventually we kind of locked into the same place where we were just like, we just want to be healthier. We just want to be happier. Something is wrong. Something is affecting our relationship, mine and her relationship. Got to the point where we were fighting a lot. We were disagreeing a lot. We weren't enjoying our time in the studio together a lot, which is a huge indicator that something is wrong, because making music with Jahan is magic. It's like one of my favorite things to do in the universe. And when there's something wrong with that, there's something wrong. And so when we slowed down in 2019, we were really excited to pick back up in 2020. We were like, okay, we're going to release the album in January. Then we have this really big tour in the spring, and then festival season all summer. And we're going to go hard. And then in the fall and winter, we're going to take off again. And then the pandemic hit and it forced us to fully back off the road. But Jahan was going through a lot of health issues around that time. And she needed to pull back. When the pandemic hit, she was like, you know what? The universe is telling me that I need to pull back completely and figure out what's going on in my body. And so she tapped out entirely. And I was like, I love that for you. Please go take care of yourself. And in that time, my partner Devin and I, we built a home studio and we started working heavily on our next projects. I started doing some production and songwriting stuff for the next Krewella album. I started doing some side stuff for myself. And I went hard during the pandemic. I was streaming a lot. I was just going in because I was like, okay, I have all this time. Like, just let me fill it. Everyone's doing stuff. Like, I see everybody streaming and everybody's creating music in this time. So I felt this this pressure to just keep the foot on the gas.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jahan eventually, she did so much healing in that time. I'm really proud of her. We eventually got back in the studio together. We made our last album, The Body Never Lies. And during that process, I was simultaneously the most fulfilled and the most unhappy I'd ever been in my entire life.
Whoa.
It was really confusing. It was a lot of dissonance for me. I felt like I was so proud of myself and so excited about what we were making, but at the same time, I was overworking myself. And I was, honestly, there was a big chunk of my life that I was like, what is anxiety? When you talk about it, I have no idea what that is. And then all of a sudden in like 2021, towards the end, I started having like these debilitating symptoms. I had to go to the ER because I thought I was having a fucking heart attack. By the way, can I swear?
Of course you can.
Amazing. I don't have to censor myself.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
And I was having all these irregularities on my ECGs and EKGs. And the doctor did every test under the sun and couldn't tell me what was wrong. And I'm like, oh, it's my mental health. Got it. Because usually when there's nothing wrong with our bodies, it is in our head, and we have to figure out how
It's
to
just
calm.
part of our body.
Exactly. It's
I
all
mean,
connected.
It's all connected.
They're not separate. You're so right. So when we went on the tour for The Body Never Lies in, wow, time is crazy, last year in 2022, it was kind of weird. It was like we did Ultra and then we did this 2-month tour. And during that tour, I felt like I was degrading so quickly. And Jahan and I had been amazing, but we started fighting a lot again. And again, like I said, that was such an indicator for me. When I can't control my nervous system around the person that I should feel the safest around, there's something wrong there. And I called my manager. I talked to Fiona and Jahan towards the end of that tour, and I'm like, guys, I need space. Like, I know we have a lot of stuff coming up. We had some shows to finish out the year. We were playing New Year's in Indonesia, and then we were playing our first shows ever in Pakistan, which was like such a huge deal for us in January. But then I was like, okay, so once 2023 hits, like once we come home from Pakistan, I just need space. I need time. I don't need to see any show offers. I don't need to hear anything about what's coming up music-wise. I don't need any pressure put on me. I will let you know when I can tap back in. And it's been so good for me. I feel like I feel good in my body again for the first time in years.
I love that so much. I
Thank you.
think I've said that a couple times now that I love that so much, but damn.
Thank you.
That takes so much bravery, I feel like, because you have fans that I know want to see you guys, and you have these creative urges that you feel like you have to get out of you, and you have family that's probably maybe not.
Well, my parents are super fucking confused for sure.
Yeah.
They're both like, but how are you going to make money? And I'm like, well, we'll figure it out. We're going to let it happen. We're going to let the universe take charge here.
Yeah, that takes a lot of bravery and just knowing that everything will happen when it's supposed to happen. And I know that I'm sure that's going to be a theme throughout our podcast, because I just get the sense that you are very spiritual and you just let things come when they're supposed to. And I
haven't always, but now I feel like I am. Like anything you're sensing is newer. Like it might have always existed in me, but anything that feels at peace with me right now is something that I'm very recently grasping.
Amazing. Then we're gonna work from start to there.
Amazing.
And see the progression, because yeah, I actually always have got that sense from you.
I'm so glad. I mean, I think it exists in all of us. We just have to be able to tap into it. But I do like the feeling of being able to bring peace. So like even if I am in like panic mode, I love appearing as though everything is all right. Not because, like, of course, like there's a people pleaser tendency happening there, but also because I like people to feel safe and comfortable around me. It's like one of my goals in life is to have people feel good around me, because I like offering a safe space for people, but I want to be authentic in that. I don't want it to be a mask. So I'm trying to figure out how to like bridge the
That is really
gap
difficult.
between those two. It is. It's hard work.
Yeah. Have you heard of Sai, our mutual friend, one of my best friends, and actually will be part of the story?
Yes.
He told me about this book called Not Nice.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
It's great. I'm reading it, and kind of the whole point of it is that we all, as people, should just stop being nice. And what nice is this facade that we just say or do things to make somebody feel a certain way, but not like actually mean it.
Yes.
Being kind is what we should all
Big
strive
time.
for.
Like the difference between those two is
Nice
so
is a
heavy.
facade.
Yes.
Kind is like genuine.
Yes.
It's really tough, especially here, like where there are people like for me at least, people I want to work with, people I want to impress, people, that that's really it. I mean, those are kind of the things, like you just want people to feel a certain way about you.
Sure.
But if you are just kind, that resonates way more deeply than whatever BS you say to make a certain situation feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm genuinely a kind person.
You are. I can contest to that.
Thank you. But I think every now and then you feel like you have to say certain things to make somebody feel great about something.
100%.
And just being genuine and real is also appreciated, and it doesn't make you feel stressed or like, I think that stress comes out of that, is like
Agreed.
trying to be a certain way.
Because it's inauthentic.
Yes.
And when we realize that our actions aren't meeting up with like our soul, like what we would actually want for ourselves, like that's where so much cognitive dissonance happens, and that's where so much anxiety is bred, in my opinion. Like for me, a lot of where my panic comes from in life is when I have two pieces of myself pulling away from each other. And I think when you can marry like I hate talking in these terms because I know we all think differently about what they mean, but our real self and our ideal self, and when we can kind of bridge the gap and marry where they are in the middle, I think that's where we find the most peace. It's because our ideal self is a fantasy. Like I'm never going to be, I will spend the rest of my life trying. Till the day I die, I will try to become that person, but I'm never going to have 100% of that. There's always going to be the real me that's just struggling against my own stories, my own traumas, my own baggage. But like bridging the gap and creating more authenticity there is, I think, where I'm going to find the most peace. Maybe that's not for everybody, but like that's how I see it. And I also think, I mean, we're talking about success here, is like back to the nice, kind thing. I think one of the things that's always sat with me is that there's plenty of people that don't like the music that my sister and I make. There's probably more people who don't like it than do like it. But the thing that bothers me more than anything is not that. If someone walks away from me with a bad experience, my biggest thing that I want for myself is I want everybody who comes into contact with me to feel like I didn't judge them, that I was kind to them, and that I treated them with respect. That's truly like, I'm like, if someone walks away being like, yeah, they're good people, I don't care if you like my music. I don't care. Like that's lower to me. If you think that like that I treated with you with respect and you had a good experience with me, that's way more important to me. Yeah,
Damn,
sorry, I went
that's
on a tangent.
beautiful. No,
Thank
thank
you.
you for saying that. Wow. You just summarized who I think you are. And I think that is why I felt like you were the spiritual person who let things flow into their life. And it's like this, it's just the way that you carry yourself, the way that you make somebody feel.
Thank you. It's the goal. That's the goal.
Has that always been the goal?
I think it's how we were raised, 100%. I remember one of the very first things that my dad said, because he's my number one in my life. He's like the most important person in my life. Definitely a daddy's girl. And he always made me feel growing up that, I mean, really, gender had nothing to do with anything. He would push me to do everything and anything that he thought I was good at. If it was art, it was art. If it was math, it was math. It was building stuff, engineering something, it was that. He was truly such a big cheerleader for me. And so what he thinks about me is like number one on the totem pole in life. I wish what I thought about myself was a little higher, but to be honest, it's not. It's my dad. And he knows it too. But I remember back in 2012, we were playing one of our first festivals. It was Spring Awakening in Chicago. That's where I'm from.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first show my dad ever came to. And in the beginning of Krewella, he was very concerned. I mean, I was going to go to college and I was going to be a fucking engineer, and I was going to go do something else in my life. What kind of
engineer?
I wanted to be an electrical or mechanical engineer.
Wow.
And I wanted to major in engineering and minor in some sort of fine arts to marry both sides of my brain, because I feel like I'm very split. And he had these big dreams for me because I fed that. You know, I told him that's what I wanted to. And so when I told him that I was going to be taking a gap year to do Krewella with Jahan and Chris, the gap year that turned into like gap life, he was so deeply concerned. He was not happy about it. But out of like, not because he didn't believe in me and believe in Jahan and I, but it was just such a hard thing he's an immigrant. He's from Pakistan. He can't imagine school not leading to a successful life. And like, that's the American dream, right? Like, that's what we're sold. And so when he finally started to see that we could support ourselves in what we were doing, which is also a pipe dream, and we got really lucky. Luck is a part of it for sure. And I remember him being at Spring Awakening and people in the front, like he was in the front and he was like jumping up and down, having the best time. And I remember him after that show coming backstage and being like, you had all these people in the crowd asking me who I was. And I'm like, I'm their dad.
Oh
And
my
people
gosh.
telling me like, we love your daughters. Like, we love their music. And he was just like, I've never been so proud. Like, they all love, like, they think you're great. And it wasn't about the music. It was more about the fact that we had been doing meet and greets like crazy. We answered every Facebook message, every single one. It was back when Facebook was a thing I was even using. My God. But we were so in tune with the people that were listening to our music that they felt like they knew us and we felt like we knew them. And like, that's why they had that interaction with our dad. And our dad was like, people really like you and love you. Like, I'm so proud. That really solidified something in me where I'm like, I want to be that person because like that's who my dad raised me to be. That's who my parents raised me to be.
There is no doubt that that's why you guys had so much early success. Like
Yeah, it was a huge part of it.
I do remember just fans like loving Krewella. It wasn't just I love this music, but I love them.
Makes me really emotional. It's like it's really sweet to think about all of that. It is.
I'd like to go back to childhood, which you've already been touching on. But I want to figure out, who your parents are and how you guys were brought up. I want to know the fabric of Yazzie. Like, how is she you?
Well, anything I talk about, I hope that everyone listening or watching knows that when I speak about these things, I'm speaking about my experience, but my experience is so intertwined with Jahan. It's like we've been attached at the hip, not even in like great ways, but in just like factual, it is what it is kinds of ways since I was born. And when I speak about these things, I know she had a different experience in our household because siblings, you can live under the same roof and have a completely different reality. But our parents, like the way they were, affected us, I think, somewhat similarly. Our father is an immigrant from Pakistan. Our mom is a first generation American woman, but her parents fled World War II and came here from Lithuania and Germany. And so we definitely grew up in a very specific way. We grew up pretty frugal. We grew up with this like no crumbs left on the plate mentality. But like, I mean that as an analogy for everything. Like there was no waste. There was no complaining. Like if something was wrong, you figure it out. You don't complain. You don't cry. You figure it out. Like I love my parents. I really like when I say this, I really truly think that they were doing their best. But it led to a household where we didn't really express our feelings or emotions at all. There was really no space for it. But when there was emotion, it usually centered around music. My parents were not musicians, but they were music lovers. They met in LA in the 80s before they moved to Houston, where they had Jahan and I, and then Chicago, where we grew up. But a lot of their first dates were concerts, and like they had some of their best times going to shows, and you really felt that in our household. My dad didn't spend money on anything, but he sprung for an incredible sound system, and we had CDs up the ass. Like we had so many CDs. So until I was a certain age, I wasn't allowed to touch it, but I had to like ask. I was like, okay, so I want to listen to this today. So I would have to listen to CDs in their entirety. I wasn't allowed to touch like the fast forward or next button. So I would just be listening. I would sit in our living room, just sit and listen to albums and and they would repeat over, and I would just sit and listen. I remember watching Talking Heads Stop Making Sense. I don't even remember where they filmed that concert, but that video, that in the VCR, if y'all remember what that is, we would watch that all the time, and it was just like magic to me. And it created some of the more joyful moments in a household that I do think was kind of devoid of emotion. And in turn, it made me feel like how I could express myself was through music. So when I was 10, our parents bought me an acoustic guitar for my 10th birthday because I'd been asking for it. And I really never asked for things. So when they got me this guitar, I was like, holy holy shit, they got it for me. And so it was all I did. Jahan and I, even at that age, started writing songs together. And it was so much fun for me because she was definitely the older sister that I thought was so cool. And I wanted to be her. But she didn't really give me the time of day because I was the annoying younger sister. But in the moments where we were writing songs together and playing music together, it's just stupid little songs, I was like, oh, this is togetherness. This is our way. And so I think even back then it planted that seed for me of like, this is something we do together.
Yeah, I wanted to tell you that growing up in my household, same thing with emotion.
Yep.
Last year, kind of in like February or March, I did a lot of deep diving into this where, I didn't have a lot of love and emotion given to me, in affectionate ways. My parents loved the hell out of us, but they were also not in a great relationship. Like,
same with my parents.
Yeah, loving wise.
Yes.
They loved each other, but there was no romance, they didn't talk anything out.
Yes.
Things
Did they
festered.
Scream things out?
Yeah, in a bedroom.
Yep.
Not in front of the kids, but it was
they did it in front of us, but like same. Like you still hear it. You're a kid. You have ears.
Totally.
You know what's happening.
Totally. Yeah. It'd be festering problems that they wouldn't talk out. No communication.
Yep. Passive aggressiveness.
Yes.
Jealousy. Like the examples that we had in front of us. Damn. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so tough because they are human and they're living their best life and trying, I'm sure.
Yes.
But you never know what is being passed. I'm sure that you don't even think about those things being passed. You
They're
probably
functioning
think
in survival mode.
Yes. Yeah. How could you think about how little bitty minute things in your relationship will affect your kids?
Yeah.
But so like it's hard for me. I'm not a super romantic person, although inside I feel that I am. It just doesn't come out naturally at all.
This is the real self, ideal self thing, right? Like your ideal self is so romantic and you have all these fantasies of like what you think you are, what you're capable of, but then your real self acts like this. It's about bridging the gap.
I have so many things that I think are a part of me and are deep within me and that I want to be a reality.
Yes.
That just aren't. And it's...
Yes, big same.
Yeah. I have journaled so much about this. I've listed out the things that I believe that I am, but that I think others don't, specifically a partner, don't think that I am. And it's so difficult because I want to be that person, but it's not. It looks easy. And I'm sure for some people it is easy.
But other things aren't easy for them. I mean, like...
Right. It's a trade-off.
Everyone's got their shit. Yes.
Yeah. It's a very tough thing. So I completely resonate with how your family life was. Well, my parents aren't immigrants or immigrant.
But
and
sometimes it's also the generation. Like the generation of our parents had a big... Like it's not only an immigrant thing. I do think it was like a baby boomers thing. They were raised by a generation that was just like coming out of such tragedy and coming out of such like lack. There's so much scarcity there and it creates like a lack of love, a lack of essential needs, like not even like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but are just normal needs, like basic needs for like our bodily survival.
For sure.
So yeah, it creates a different breed of humans. I feel like our generation, our job has been, well, not our job that we chose, but the job that we have unfortunately just been laid with is that we either break those patterns or we continue them. And we're more conscious than our parents because we have the internet. We have all this new language to describe what's happening. We have therapy. It's accepted to talk about our mental health in a way that no other generation has accepted.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a big part of, I feel like my dharma, my purpose is to help break these patterns for me and my sisters and my parents and my family. It's like, it's all a part, it's all woven in. Like I have a lot of purposes, but that's woven in for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like you're really doing it. I mean, your relationship with your dad is great and you're working with your mom.
My dad has always been good though.
Okay.
Like that's something that I think is the reason why I have like the crumb of sanity I have left is that my relationship with my dad was always a safe place for me. Even if I didn't really like realize it as I was younger, even looking back now, I'm like, oh, I could have been anything I wanted to be and my dad would have loved me just like that full acceptance. And it is, God, I'm not trying to cry on the podcast, my guy, but I will if I talk about my dad. I will. Like he's really the thing that held me down. Like this quote, I don't know, we're not going to talk about that yet, or are
Oh,
we?
I mean,
Are
we
we?
can totally talk about it. Please tell me about it.
Yes. This place where you are, God circled on a map for you. It's Hafiz, he is a 14th century Persian poet and writer. So that's an old ass quote. It's
Yeah.
almost like 1,000 years old. My father was raised with a lot, like in Pakistan, there's so much Persian and Middle Eastern and Afghani and Pakistani poets that have like embedded themselves in the very culture. And so these things are normal. It's normal to just say beautiful proverbs. You know, it's just normal to speak those things aloud, which I think it's a lost thing in this part of the world. I would love to bring that back, just discussing poetry like that.
Yeah, that would be so cheesy and weird. People would be like, wait, what the
Right? But I live for that shit. It's like the softy part of me where I'm like, oh, just give me all the soft stuff. Give me all the inspirational stuff. I don't care if I'm cringe. But I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease when I was 15. And like from 15 to 19, my health was really all over the place. Like I almost didn't graduate high school because my attendance was so low. My grades were like amazing, but my attendance was so low that they almost didn't let me graduate.
Damn.
Because I was like in and out of the doctor, in and out of the hospital. I had to skip a lot of school. And I was kind of going through this period where I had doctors telling me really honestly fucked up things they shouldn't have said. They were just saying like, oh, be prepared for this to happen. Even though I'm like
what?
But it might, like cancer and shit. You know, just think that you shouldn't say to like a 17-year-old kid who's like got the whole rest of their life in front of them. But I think with how poor I felt, my mental health started to spiral. And then in turn, my physical health never got better. And I was in a really low moment, and my dad I'll pick up the phone and just say hi, and the way I say hi, he will know if I'm not okay. He'll just know. He'll be like, what's wrong? Tell me. I'm like, I just said hi. How do you know? So I was going through a lot around my 19th birthday, and he wrote that on the card, and it kind of was this moment for me that like lifted me out of a lot of doom and gloom, like a lot of self-pity, a lot of self-isolation. And every time I'm kind of struggling, I go back to that quote because it really brings me a lot of peace. It's like, I don't care what you believe in. I'm not like a God-fearing person. I grew up Muslim, but I'm not practicing. I really don't know what I believe God is, but I believe in something. I believe in something because that's just who I am. And I really do, when I really think about this Hafiz quote, I'm just like, okay, everything I've ever done, everything I've ever believed, everyone I've ever loved, every word I've ever said, every piece of art I've ever created, every night I've spent crying myself to sleep, every day I've spent laughing and in joy has brought me right here. Like, how could it not matter? How could it be all for nothing? How could it not have weight to it? And I'm pretty nihilistic in my worst moments. I'm definitely one of those people who struggles to figure out like the meaning behind things. I'll have to like purposely place meaning on something when I'm really struggling because I'm like, I need to find anything. I need to like dig magic out of this moment to like know that I can wake up tomorrow. But when I read that quote, I'm just like, oh shit, okay. I have spent 31 years on this earth, 31 years and counting on this earth, and I've done so much with my life. Even if I didn't have the career I had, I've done so much with my life. I've loved so many people. I have so much love in my life. I've experienced so many different places on this earth. I've met so many people. I've had like the lowest lows and the highest highs I can imagine, and they will get lower and they will get higher as I get older. I'm like, how could it all not matter? How could it all be insignificant? So trust me, if you're out there and you're like, well, everything's insignificant and nothing matters. I'm like, I feel you. It's one of my biggest existential crises every single day. But like that quote brings me back down to earth. Probably because it's my dad who put it in my head also, but like it really grounds me. Oof, the caffeine is making me go on tangents, my guy. Like we're just
No,
going off into the wilderness.
that's beautiful. I think that somehow we'll come back to that, because if we get into like universal and soul talk and
Yeah.
this and that,
Oh, yeah.
then you need something to ground you, because the thoughts are too large. So we'll get there, because
Oh, you don't want to get there with me. I mean, maybe we do, but let's go.
maybe we'll edit some out of the podcast. But the way that I think about this podcast is really just a talk. It's not an interview, because I'll be honest, I don't want to do any research.
You have like questions. You're like,
I do
question
actually.
number 5.
I do actually have some questions, but they are organic.
Yeah. Free flowing.
They're like thought provoking and not.
Yes.
I did research to figure this out.
Yes.
And I think if I'm having a great time having this conversation, then other people will have a great time listening to it.
Big time.
And if they don't, we got closer.
Amazing. Win-win.
Yeah, that's
Love it.
That's really the goal here. So, okay, let's move a little bit forward.
So Jahan and Chris, our ex-member, started Krewella when I was 15. I wasn't in it. Like it was like Chris was making beats and he and Jahan were, I think everyone knows they dated at this point. It's not a secret. But they were dating. Like she would just be like hanging out with him, and he realized she could sing and she wanted to write. She was writing songs already, and kind of just happened organically. I feel like a lot of people know this story already, but they were looking for a third member, like another singer. And Jahan was just like, my sister sings. We've been writing songs together since we were like little.
Had you guys been
shits.
singing?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We were.
Okay.
I mean, we grew up not classically trained in anything, but just exploring and enjoying, and knowing that it felt good and it felt like we were in a place of pure joy when we were singing and writing and playing instruments. Like it just felt right for us.
That's so much more important than being classically trained, in my opinion. I'm not talking down about people who are classically trained, but something that's actually just like deeply from the soul that you figured out.
Chris and Jahan were over one day at our house that we grew up in Chicago, and they were upstairs just like working on some music and recording stuff. And Jahan just knocks on my door. And by the way, at this point, I'm already so excited. I'm a little sister. I'm just so excited about everything my big sister is doing. She knocks on my door, my bedroom down the hall, and she's just like, "Can you come in here and just like try singing something?" And I was like, "Me? You choose me?" And they had only been doing this for a few months, but I was already just like, "No, this is the coolest thing ever. It's like you guys are going to be huge." And when they asked me to sing, it felt like I was stepping over this invisible boundary of like Jahan's cool life and like my life over here. I felt like I was stepping over this boundary, and it felt so exciting for me, because it's not like we had a bad relationship growing up, but we were definitely just like big sister, little sister polarity. It definitely had that vibe. And when I sang that day, it just kind of fell into a pattern. Chris would come over after school and we would just write stuff, and I just fell into being a part of what they were doing. Jahan had already come up with the name Krewella. I think it was just like a random thing she thought sounded cool. And it became my whole life. I had school, and then I would come home. I had a band I was into in high school, like an indie rock band, kind of like a Death Cab wannabe band.
I love that. I can kind of see that.
Thank you. Cool. I like that because I loved it. I was such an indie kid. I was an indie and emo kid. I had like both parts of me. But then this other part of me doing the stuff with Jahan and Chris for Krewella felt like we were striking gold. It really felt like that. I had an iPod, shout out iPods. And I would just like load up all the demos we made, and I would just listen to them on repeat, imagining performing them. And I would just take walks around my neighborhood with my iPod and just like lip syncing to the songs we had written yesterday. Probably looked like a crazy little kid just like walking around talking to themselves. But yeah, it just became something. I had never been so excited about something. And in my senior year of high school, we had already had a manager. You know Nathan, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's my ex-manager now, but he's still like family for me. And we had a manager. And we
Wait,
felt
wait,
really
wait, we're skipping ahead. How did you,
MySpace.
I mean, so much great music came from MySpace, though. That era I just fuck with so hard.
Good. We definitely felt like we were part of the MySpace scene. It's okay if
No,
nobody remembers.
You totally are.
It's fine if nobody remembers, but we felt like we were like embedded in that. And like anytime people had our song as their MySpace profile song, I was like, fuck yeah, someone's MySpace profile song. And we were doing this like, we were so inspired by like the Faint and Cut Copy and Mastercraft, but then we were also so inspired by like the 90s pop that we all were like obsessed with growing up. So we had this thing going that was like electronica pop with like Chris was in metal bands. So he was bringing in all of this other like other flavor, truly, in all of like the drum programming he was doing. To me, at that point, nobody was doing what he was doing in electronica pop music.
For sure.
He was like doing such next level shit. And he was he's still an incredible guitarist. Like he was doing stuff that I'm still proud to this day. I'm like, that dude was on a wave that nobody else was on.
Absolutely. You guys were in your own lane.
I feel you. I appreciate that. And I just felt like when we first, I would have to say it was, I graduated high school in 2010. Like a couple months before I graduated, we had this talk with Nathan, Jahan, Chris, and I, and we were like, okay, so you're graduating high school. Jahan's in community college right now, and she could take that all the way. Or we could stop everything else we're doing. And once you graduate high school, spend the next year fully developing this project, not as like a side thing we do after school, but like a full-time gig. And I was young and impressionable, but I was also obsessed with what we were doing. And I was just like, yeah, let's do it. I'm not going to college next year. Let's fucking go. It was not even, I didn't even have to think about it. I was like, absolutely, for sure. I was dating this guy, and I was not supposed to be dating anyone, but I was dating this guy in high school. And I remember like his parents were both professors at this like really good college in Chicago. And I remember him being like, you do realize this is dumb, right? Like this is like the worst idea. Like you have to go to school. Like this is not actually gonna happen. And I remember being like, I love you less now.
We all need one of those in our life.
He was a great guy, but he just like didn't comprehend following a pipe dream, which by the way, at that time, I don't think it felt as possible. It was like pre-internet famous. Like it really felt like a pipe dream. But for us, we were like, no, but I'm with my best friends and we can make it happen.
Yeah.
It was silly, but it felt so real to us.
Well, I talk about it all the time, especially on this podcast. We, as people in the music world, have to be slightly delusional.
Yes, big time.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah, still today, even with the internet,
Yes.
people you see with millions of followers on Instagram but drop a track and it gets like 10,000 plays.
Yes.
You have to be delusional to keep on going forward after that.
100%. And we were collectively delusional. And I think that's what made it feel safe to be delusional, is because we were all in it together. By the way, I wouldn't have done anything I've ever done alone. I wouldn't have. It's probably, if we're talking about anything about something you can take away from what I can tell you, it's that if you're a solo act, great, but then get yourself a manager who believes in you. Surround yourself with people who obsess as much as you obsess and care about you, see you as a human, not as a commodity, see you as a fully functioning human with all these like incredible artistic endeavors to give the world as a gift. But if you're not in a solo act, surround yourself with people you are making music with that really, really are on the same page as you and can go all the way with you. Don't make music with people who don't make you feel good. Don't make music with people who aren't as invested as you are. If they're giving 5% and you're giving 95%, you will burn out. Like, work with people who have the same obsession and love and drive as you, because that's what we had. And I don't think I would have been able to do any of it alone. I truly, like, I know it in my heart. And we were unstoppable because of every piece of that puzzle. And even to this day, me and Jahan, the way that we function together, to me is magic. We know how to tap into each other. We know how to be like, okay, that thing you do, like do that, they go in the booth and do that thing. Or if I'm like working on something, she's just like, okay, I know that like we love this song. Let's like listen, blast this song and get super inspired. And we are so driven with each other. And I really think that it is the reason why we're still doing what we're doing. I don't know. Yeah, sorry, I just went on a tangent, but
No, that was very beautiful. It should not be this, or this. Like, people need to hear that.
yeah.
It's so true. It's that, yeah, you laid it out. Like, you laid out the things that you should not do, which leave the good things.
I actually think this might be an overarching umbrella statement for any type of relationship in your life, but you have to be with someone who's willing to grow with you, like willing to understand if they bring criticism to the table, that if you want to be able to grow with this person, you have to be able to make space for that, and you have to do it with compassion, both sides. Like, and that's something Jahan and I have done so much work on. There used to be times where we had no compassion and we were devoid of that. And we were just like, no, it's my perspective, me, 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 me. And they were some of the lowest points in our relationship. But now I'm like, all I want is for her to step into the studio and feel like she's free. Even if we didn't make a song, even if it goes in the trash, like we've won. So, wow, that was another fucking caffeine, man.
Caffeine's a hell of a
really,
thing.
It really did something for me today.
I love that.
How did we get here, Austin? How did we get to it?
Wait, are we asking like an existential question here?
No,
or
I mean conversationally, but we can go existential. I would love that too. But conversationally, how did I get us here?
I don't know. I was just in it and listening.
Same, I was in it and talking.
I know how to get us back on track, though.
Amazing.
One thing that we skipped over, what were the songs that you guys were putting out that Nathan heard and brought him towards you? Or how did Nathan get into the picture?
Nobody knows those songs. They're deleted. They're gone. They're never going to be released. They were early MySpace songs.
People who are listening, though, they need to hear just like how this came about, because this is, I think, part of the story that really matters for people.
100%.
Because they're trying to go from, some people are trying to go from, I'm making songs, to making something a reality, which grabbing a manager who believes in you is. So what was the...
I mean, by the way, Nathan was just another kid, and he was managing this local rapper who used to go by S Preem, but now he goes by Preem. He's like family for me too, because we were all kind of in the same scene coming up. And Nathan, he was just a kid, but because he was managing this rapper, he seemed so legit. But he was figuring shit out on the go too. I think he's like 4 years older. He might have been like Chris's or Jahan's age. So he was just another kid trying to do the thing. But he found our music on MySpace, did the proverbial slid into our DMs, but back in 2007, I want to say. Maybe a different year, but my timeline is a little mucky. But when we had someone telling us like, I love what you do, I believe in you, like, let's have a meeting, I want to manage you. That in itself was like, wait, someone wants to manage us? What? And so it was easy. Like, he loved what we were doing. He believed in what we were doing. He came to every single studio session. He pulled up every single day, no matter what he was doing, and sat with us and gave us amazing feedback and became someone that we really trusted and relied on. He had his ear to the ground. He was paying attention. And he, till this day, this man is so, his taste is like chef's kiss, impeccable. I love his taste. He still has his ear to the ground. He's now directing and writing and creating movies. Like, the dude is this fucking genius, psychotic genius person that I respect more than I respect most people. But he definitely gave us a feeling that we could do something with what, like, we already kind of felt delusional, but he drove the delusion deeper for sure. And he really started to reach out to people. He was starting to make connections in Chicago with promoters and just like other people we could work with. Yeah, he really went hard for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned Jake Udell.
Yes.
What was there anything substantial that happened like in between Nathan hopping on board and you meeting Jake, or Jake coming on board?
Yes. We released our first 3 tracks, sorry, before Jake came on board. And those 3 tracks all hit the blogs. Remember the blogs, guys?
Yeah.
Remember the blogs?
Which tracks were these?
Oh, man.
Do you remember?
Yes, but okay. Life of the Party, which was actually featuring that rapper, the Chicago rapper, Esprime, Strobe Lights, and 1 Minute. And those 3 songs kind of brought us to this place where people were looking at us for the first time. And it was after those 3 songs got released where we deleted our MySpace and deleted all the other songs so nobody could ever find them again. Because we were like,
the rebrand.
No, exactly. We're like, no, we can't be these people anymore. People are actually paying attention. We're starting fresh. We opened for Porter Robinson in 2011. It was the first big gig. And I remember he had a no playlist, like no dubstep, no like electro house, no so many things, including all the genres of the music we made. And we're like, fuck the no playlist. And we did whatever. Like, I get if your no playlist is like, please don't play any Krewella songs. Like, yeah. That's usually what our no playlists are. Like, just don't play any of our music and go play whatever else you want.
Totally.
But when they're so specific, it is a little shitty, but I still feel really bad because that was such a big moment for Porter. It was his first big Chicago show. And I feel kind of like we were just like, we're just going to rebel and do what we want. And I feel super shitty about it. Don't be that person. We were those people. But it was one of those.
You guys were making your own music also. So it's like.
Yeah, we had a dubstep song. We had an electro house song. We had all these songs. We were like, do we just not play our own music?
I think Porter did okay.
I think he did just fine. He's a legend. Like,
we love Porter.
He's doing great. But I think as these things were happening, these promoters in Chicago were seeing what we could do and like the energy we brought and how we brought something a little bit different. And then we went to Australia in 2012 and we did live singing for the first time, which was a shit show because nobody was doing it yet. Nobody was mixing live and DJ yet. And it was being the first ones to do anything, shit's going to go wrong. It's going to sound bad. You have nobody to lean on to tell you what the right and wrong way to do anything is. And so it was really bad. It was truly just bad. But it was a learning process.
Well, why was it bad?
We had no front of house person. So we had nobody mixing the show. We had like a little mixer on stage with us. So he would run back and forth telling us like, you need to turn the vocals up. Okay, now they need to come down. Oh. There's too much high end. Like, oh my God, it was
my God. During the set? Oh man, that's a lot to think about.
And so we were self-mixing the show based on what Nathan was telling us it sounded like.
Oh man.
So then we went to Ultra and we did that at Ultra live. Like, I think that set's on fucking YouTube. Don't watch it. It might not be. I don't actually know. But then, like, we bombed a little less that time. Every time we were bombing a little less every time. And eventually we got it figured out and we like created a team around it. We started making enough money to actually bring someone on the road to work our in-ears because we were using fills in the beginning. We didn't have in-ears. We finally figured out, we should have in-ears. We should have an in-ear person and a front of house person. We started to build it out and it became so clear to us how to build the team out, but we fucked up a lot. We bombed a lot before we got to that point. But like, whether it's releasing a bunch of demos that are sitting on your hard drive for a year, or just doing the thing you're supposed to try to do and failing, like, you just have to start. That's one of my things. I've said it a lot in interviews, but I like really feel the need to reiterate it. You have to start, because if you don't, you will get stuck in this place of just trying to one up yourself and just trying to like, I could just do better. I could do better. I could make it more perfect. I could make it sound better. My songwriting could be better. My mix could sound better. Like, you can do that forever and then you're just nowhere.
What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. And play the shows with a new setup that might not sound great, but you're practicing and you're trying. Like, do it.
I'm so glad that you said this, because this is one of the main points that I talk about as well, is like, fail forward. Just if you have an idea, just do the damn thing.
Yeah.
Because if it sits in your head, you never move forward. You never get feedback on it. You never move forward. You didn't try to learn to DJ on a CDJ. You just got out there and did the damn thing.
Yes.
And you said you failed. And then
a lot.
And then you went on to the CDJs, and I'm sure that you failed with that.
For sure. Oh my gosh.
And then you threw in...
I still do sometimes.
Hell
Things
yeah.
go wrong all the time. It's fine.
Yeah, it's human.
I'll be like, enjoying myself so much that my elbow hits the play button and just
Hell
stop
yeah.
the music at a huge show. And I'll just get on the mic and be like, that was my bad. And just press play again. It happens.
It would be hilarious if you like started jumping, you smack it again, and you're just like in rhythm.
It's happened, Austin. It's all happened.
Damn, I need a video of that one. Please, somebody find that.
Oh, God.
But then you throw in the live vocals, right?
Yeah.
And you fail. And you just keep on going, but you figure it out as you're going. But you don't just sit there in analysis paralysis and not move forward.
Yeah.
That's such a key.
But that's another thing about being in a group with people. Even if I was analysis paralysing,
I like that.
not a term, someone else wouldn't be, and it would pull me out. Like Jahan wouldn't be, or Chris wouldn't be, or Nathan, someone wouldn't be in those early days. We would all just keep each other on this, like, not autopilot, but just like straight shot path of like, sorry, we're still moving. So get out of whatever you're thinking and we're going. There were some moments in those early days that felt so unhealthy. Like looking back, I'm like, wow, super unhealthy, super toxic. Not a good way to work or create relationships with the people that you're making music with. It was a lot of like pressure and a lot of like, well, if you don't do this, you're out. A lot of like ultimatum talk and a lot of like no space for breakdowns. A lot of that got us to where we are today. But it's something that I had to work to unlearn because I thought that hard work equaled ignore your mental health and just keep going. Like up until like 2020, probably.
This is such a interesting conversation for me because I know many people like you at this point where you can look back and say that.
Yeah.
It's incredibly hard to ignore how, again, delusional or obsessed or just like you have horse blinders on to anything going on that allow people like you to make it to that level. There are so many people that I've heard in interviews that just say, I never looked up and I wish I would have.
That's really sad.
It is, but like, what if
I did, or what if we did look up and we're where we were?
You take the time. Is that all of the people who didn't make it to where you are? I really like having this conversation because it's so difficult. If you ask almost anybody who has made it to a level that you're like, oh shit, they did not look up. Like 99% of them.
Oh.
How do we deal with this going forward?
Austin, this is a real conundrum for me because I, at this point in my life, will not trade my peace for anything. But it took me sacrificing my peace for like more than a decade to get to this place. And I'm also in a privileged position where I'm financially comfortable and we have an incredibly solid career where I can go fuck off and like help myself. So I can't speak from a place of preaching anything because I'm in a position of privilege. And so anything I say is tainted by that. Not tainted in a bad way, but it is tainted. And so like I would never tell someone who's on the come up, like, take care of yourself first, man. Like, don't forget that. Because that's going to go in one ear, out the other. Like, it has to come from an internal place. No one could force you to take time off or like have slow mornings or put yourself first. Like, no one can force the person who is in that position. Like, it truly has to come from within. It had to come from within for me. Like, I saw Jahan doing that during like a little bit 2019, 2020. I saw her doing it firsthand and I resented her for it, for some of it. Like, damn, like she's fucking taking this time off to like get healthy. Like, why can't I? I didn't resent her. I hate to say I resented her because I didn't. I resented myself because I couldn't. Resentment isn't towards the other person. It's like seeing what someone else does, being affected by it, and then not taking action. To me, that's what resentment is. And it truly, like, I had to get to the like rock bottomest place to see why she was doing what she was doing for herself and to really have it click. And now we both get it. And if we both don't want to do, if one person doesn't want to do something, even if I really wanted to do something but Jahan didn't, I'm just like, okay, we won't do it. Rolls off my back. I'm not like, but the opportunity and the money and the this and no, I'm like, cool. You don't feel like it's right? Done. Cool. It's so much more simple now that we both get it.
Damn.
Another tangent. I'm so sorry.
No, I get it. You have to be on the same page. But yeah, I've had this conversation as well with friends before, that it's the you can lead a horse to water thing. You can say it all day long, but if it doesn't come from within, how you can't penetrate somebody's mind with your feeling. It has to come from within.
And Austin, I hate to take us out of music world, but this goes for everything. A romantic relationship, relationships with your parents, relationships with even not in music workplace, but any workplace. You cannot control what someone else does. You can't force them to see something. Things truly need to come authentically for people to create real change. I really if you're struggling out there because you're trying to get someone to see something, whether it's work, whether it's romance, whether it's familial relationships, whatever it is, just stop. Just take a step back and just have a moment for yourself and realize that really, we hear it all the damn time that we can only control ourselves, but this is something I'm still learning. When I feel so strongly about something, I'm I just want this person to see it. I just want this person to get it. And I am trying my absolute best in the last couple of years of my life to just take a step back and be there's no forcing anything. Forcing someone to see something would hurt me. I don't want to force anyone to do anything.
Actually, I find a lot of these conversations, just even off the podcast, whenever it's one-on-one and it's deep, we're always talking to ourselves, actually.
Yes, big time.
Every time that I have a conversation like this, I stop and I'm like, fuck, I'm just talking to myself, aren't I?
That's for me. That's for me.
Yeah, it's for me. You're a mirror. We need mirrors.
Oh God, big time.
Because if it's up in my head and it's not verbalized, I guess I'm somebody who has to talk through things. I am incredibly good at figuring out things in my head, but the key to all of the things always is verbal.
Yeah.
I get 95% of the way there, but then as soon as I verbalize something, a couple words into a sentence, I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yep.
That's it. That's the answer.
Yes. Yes. Oof.
And then I just have to say thank you to somebody because they were my mirror.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what this podcast is just me
holding up a mirror.
Yeah. Maybe all of these conversations are just for me to learn about myself through the lens of someone else.
The best relationships in life, and don't take my word for it because I know nothing. I'm learning every single day, but I feel the best relationships are the ones that put a mirror up to you and you're oh shit, I don't like what I see. And they're the ones where you feel safe enough not to run away. Oh yeah. God, the caffeine, man. What'd you put in this shit? Would you just a sprinkle of potions?
Unadulterated coffee.
Yeah. Magic potion.
Wait, I asked a question and somehow we went there, which was beautiful. But when did Jake come into the picture? And what was Jake doing?
Okay, Austin. So I've never talked about this on the record. And I feel this surmountable guilt about it. So I'm just going to talk about it right here and right now. And it's kind of funny now because this was so long ago. And I was 19 when this happened and I'm 31. So it's 12 years ago. But I was at Movement Detroit last weekend with Devin. Devin's from Detroit. Devin's my partner.
Yeah, Devin Oliver. And shout out Devin.
Shout out Devin. And on the last day of Movement, Skrillex played. And I haven't seen Skrillex in so long. I was so fucking excited. I literally had butterflies. I was so excited because I love him. If you don't love him, you don't make sense to me.
I really think he's the best to ever do it. And I don't mean as a DJ. I literally mean as a producer, as possibly an artist.
Go to one of his sets now. You might add DJ to that list because his set was so genius to me.
Me and Cass actually saw him recently. Insane.
I felt...
I just got chills thinking.
Same. Thinking about it. I love that I am not jaded because I can get so fucking childlike obsessed and excited to go see a Skrillex set as if I'm fucking 17. Because I think I was 17 when I first heard about Skrillex, but he was Sonny Moore back then.
Yeah,
but
I remember it was the in between project between EP, Skrillex and
it was so good, and I was obsessed, and so I having the ability to still be that to me. I'm thank God. I don't ever want to be jaded, especially about music. Fuck. Music and love. Please never, God, if you're up there, don't let me be jaded ever. But when he played, well, I think it's called, what is it actually called? Summit. But when he first leaked the song, it was called Breathe. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
This is where Jake came in the picture. I promise this is all going to make sense. Skrillex releases this like demo version of a song. You know, like it's the first song he's ever released. It doesn't have a drop. It's just like a very like low key emotional vibe. And Jake's in the picture for the funniest reason. Jahan and Chris, he went to high school with Jahan.
Okay.
Same grade. Jake's younger sister was in my grade in high school. It's such a small world. And she now owns this like incredible catering chef company. She's a fucking boss. Anyways,
I love that for her.
That family's on some other shit in a good way. Like they're just all incredible geniuses.
Yeah.
But Jake was trying to have a music career. He was trying to be a pop star. And Jahan and Chris would produce beats for him and Jahan would write songs for him and he would sing them and rap them.
I had no idea.
And so as he was kind of phasing out of the I'm going to be a pop star rapper career, he was like, I still want to do something with music. And he was the CFO for a huge candy company. Like he was doing, he went to school for business. Like his mind is on some other shit for marketing and business. And he was like really excited about Krewella and everything we were doing and kind of getting like tapping into the electronic scene. It made no sense to him. Like DJing made no sense to him. He was like, what are they doing up there? And like, he's like, why is this music the way it is? But I think through us, he started to understand it a little bit. And when we were all freaking out about Skrillex dropping this song, Breathe, he was just like, you guys have to like write over it. We're going to produce drop. We're going to put it out and we're going to leak it as if it's a collab with Skrillex.
Oh, shit.
So from the moment we heard, God, this is where the surmountable guilt comes in. From the moment we heard the song to the moment we released it was 3 days. We went turbo mode and we were just like, cool, Jahan and I are going to write some shit. We're going to record it. We're going to produce this out with Chris. We're going to create a drop. We're going to make it like a song, like a full-fledged song with a drop and everything. And we released it. But the way it was released, this was like Jake's trial management period because he was like, I'm going to go hard for you guys. And like, I kind of want to manage you guys. And like, let me show you what I can do. He took the song we made and like leaked it to a bunch of people and was like, oh shit, I got the leak of the new Skrillex song. But the MP3 said Skrillex featuring Krewella. And so all the blogs picked it up. And this is why I feel so guilty, is because I feel like we took something away from Skrillex's release. To this day, I'm just like, I feel kind of bad because that song ended up coming out with Ellie Goulding on it. Like very shortly after we released this leaked version. I feel like his team was just like, well, who the fuck are these people? Like, who is Krewella? Who are these people? This is not our song. And I feel like him and his team were probably just like, we have a real song. Let's just like release the real version on my socials and just like to shut these fucking people up. So I feel really bad about it. I feel like we stole a shine that we shouldn't have stolen. But Jake really did some shit. He really like made that song pop off in the blog days and people were so amazed. They were like, who is this Krewella person? Even though we're 3 people. And how did they get a song with Skrillex even though we didn't have a song with Skrillex? So, Sonny, I'm really sorry. Like, I still feel kind of bad about that. And
have you talked with him
you deserved
about it?
better. No, because I'm scared of confrontation. And Sonny's probably the nicest guy. I've met him a few times. He actually is the nicest guy in the world. But I just feel like it's 12 years ago. It's 12 years in the past. And, you know, it's fine. Everyth's fine.
I'm sure it doesn't matter at all, but it would also be incredibly cathartic, I bet.
It would probably be really funny. He'd probably be like, why do you feel bad about this? And I'd be like, I don't know. I have a lot of shame in my soul and I need to get rid of it. But yeah, Jake really proved himself with that because, dude, when that happened, then we got Monster Cat's attention and we released Killin' It with Monster Cat. And
That's
where you heard of us.
Yeah,
that's where
sure.
most people heard of us. And it's so funny because our A&R at Columbia Records, we're not with Columbia anymore, but our A&R, Andrew Keller, shout out Andrew Keller, he discovered us on, oh my God, what was that website where you could like heart something and it would go up.
Oh, Hype 'em?
Hype 'em. Thank you.
Yeah.
He discovered
That's
killing it
where I
on
heard
Hype 'em.
killing it.
And because it was like getting all these upvotes every single day. And he heard that and he flew out to Chicago to meet with us. And he was just like, I want to sign you to Columbia Records. Like, show me the other shit you have. And we were like, I just got chills because I'm like, excuse me? Major label? We're just these little shits from Chicago like faking our way through this shit. We just faked a Skrillex collab. You want to sign us to Columbia Records? And we had almost a full EP done. And it was the Play Hard EP. And Alive was on that. And when he heard that, he immediately knew. He was just like, cool. I'll see you next week. I'll bring the president of Columbia here.
Oh my
President
gosh.
of Columbia flies out to meet us. I'm a child, Austin. I'm like a fucking kid still. I was 19, just turning 20 as this was happening. And by the way, if you're 19 and you don't feel like a kid, turn 31 and look back on yourself as a 19-year-old and you'll be like, no, I was a fucking kid for sure. I probably was cosplaying as an adult, but I wasn't an adult at all. I'm still not really an adult, but whatever. And yeah, that really fucking changed the trajectory of so much because we white labeled that first EP because we were so afraid of the EDM community knowing that we had released something on a major label and thinking had sold out because it was all about the underground back then. It was all about like staying true to your roots, and we needed to like hang on to that even if by a thread because that was our core. You know, that's how we got to where we were by our like fan base that we were in touch with every single day. These songs that really tapped into what people wanted to feel and hear. And that was so deeply important to our brand. I hate the word brand, but like, I don't know what other word to use. And we white label released the first EP, and that was June 2012. I still have it fucking tattooed on my fucking fingers. That's so funny. Anyways, I guess 6/18/12, June 18th. Wow, it'll be, what day is it? June 6th? Yeah.
Yes. Diablo
Couple
came out
weeks.
today. That's why I know that. Diablo 4. I've been waiting for this for a long
Does
time.
it always come out on 6/6 for a reason?
I actually don't know.
We'll figure that out later.
Let's just go with that.
And then a year later, our first album came out, Get Wet. But man, between putting Play Hard out and putting Get Wet out, like that was probably the most life-changing year of my life. We went from making music. I remember, like, everybody knows this story, but we first started writing live on New Year's of 2011 going into 2012. We had no show, you know, like if you're popping, you're playing a show on New Year's, but we were like just sitting at our loft drinking Bud Light Limes or whatever the fuck and writing this song that like would end up changing our lives. And it's just so funny to think about it. We had no idea. It was so pure for us. It was just so pure. And if I'd have known like everything that was going to happen, I wouldn't even fucking believe it. I wouldn't believe it. Yeah. Actually, maybe I would have because I was fucking delusional.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Who knows?
Well, I'm sure whenever you were writing that, you like the goal was we want to be massive. We want to be playing a show tonight.
Yeah.
Next year.
Exactly. And we were.
Hell yeah. Do you know what you played that next year?
Pretty sure Lights All Night was one of them.
That's when I met you.
Because we had two shows on New Year's. We had Lights All Night and something else, and I can't remember what it was. That's so awful. Fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I met you that next year at Lights All Night, which I have a
2012
picture.
going into 2013. Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can actually look at my picture. The one I showed you. Do you remember the picture I showed you?
Of course.
It's fucking hilarious.
It's the night I met Sai also.
Yeah. Is that?
Yeah,
Or
I think so.
I think
he interviewed us.
Right. I think he met you while you were in town.
Maybe.
But
God.
I think he had you guys stuff Oreos in your mouth or something like that.
Some shit like that. Sounds about right.
Yeah. So my buddy Sai was hosting it, or he was the host of a radio show, Technologic Radio. And it was at a UTA in Arlington, Texas.
So wild.
Yeah. And he would talk to various electronic artists who were popping in. Yeah, I think he had you guys on to stuff Oreos in your mouth, and you had to answer questions while you have your
good premise. Such a good premise. I love it.
Tastes good.
I
And
love Oreos.
it's comedy. So.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Um, wow. Yeah, it's crazy that it happened off of one track on Hypem that caught the attention of a major. But I mean, Hypem was what I guess labels are using TikTok for right now.
Yes, it was the benchmark. But also back to the back to the quote behind me and back to the everything you do matters. Like it's not insignificant. We had to release all the MySpace music and then delete it. We had to release the first 3 songs, which are like, they're low key, like, please don't even go listen. I mean, if you want to, fine, but like, they're not things that I'm like, yes, but like, they were they're building blocks. We had to, we had to steal Skrillex's shine and release that song. I hate saying like that. Honestly, I stan Skrillex. Like, this is like, I feel so bad, like, even saying it like that. But yeah, I just feel like all of those things had to happen for Killing It to have to happen, for Alive, and the whole Play Hard EP to have to happen. Like, all of that had to happen that way. So just release the music.
Yeah, just release it.
Just let it go.
I want to get to some other stuff as well. Like, I think that people they can understand from the conversation we've had some key takeaways for success.
For sure.
Like, it just takes a lot of hard work. You have to give up literally everything in life. I think for a long period of time where you are just grinding, because there are millions of people who do what we do or want to do, who are putting in that work, and these things take time. You're not just born with the ability to do everything that you need to be an artist. Like, yes, you can just be born with talent, like more just innate talent, but talent doesn't get you that far without the work. And so those have to live in the same world. But one other thing that I think people could take away from you guys is you've had a very long career. And I want to understand, I think from, I'll just say a fan perspective, you guys have built a true fan base, that like diehard people that whenever you announce a tour, they heard you back in 2012 and they still are coming out.
Yeah.
What do you think has allowed you guys to have such a long career?
Longevity is a funny thing, right? Because people are very fickle. Listeners are very fickle. Even me as like a diehard music listener, I'm the album listener. If my favorite artist comes out with an album, it's all I'll listen to for the next 6 months on repeat, top to bottom. And I'll go to the show and I'll buy them. Like, that's me. I'm a fan. But I do know from personal experience as an artist and as a fan, people are very fickle. So it's a hard thing to truly lock down. But I think that the way you make people feel in your music is very important. But then also with like who you outwardly claim to be. And I think people connecting with something is the reason why Jahan and I are still where we are. And I mean, to be honest, like, I'm not going to go too deep into it, but like when we got sued in 2014 and then like my whole life was put on blast for like a long time, Jahan and I did have to further put on those like horse blinders and just be like, we could either quit because everybody fucking hates us, or we could just keep going and see what happens. And we kept going. And it was a true testament to the fact that because we were creating from authentic places, always, like even when Austin, when I tell you, like, bless our A&R and bless Columbia Records for everything they did for us. But when we were angry and we were making angry music, they were like, no, sorry, we were like, no, but we're angry, but we're sad, but we're in pain. And this is all we can do right now. This is all we can do. Like, we'll go in the studio with your like top 40 writer and write a pop hit, but it's not coming out. Like, it's not something we feel like we can back. Like, we'll do what you want us to do, but when it comes time to release, like, we have things we need to say. And we definitely like compromised with them a lot. Like, that's what the Ammunition EP was. Like, there's a whole nother body of work that's so much angrier that never came out. It's so much more like, I don't know, stuff y'all will never hear, but it's the shit that we had to compromise on and never got to release. But I think because people knew we were always creating from an authentic place and wanted to connect with people over it, I think that's what's worked for us. I don't think the same formula works for everybody, though. I know plenty of people who don't make their own music and are just DJs, and they have great careers. So, like, truly, not the same thing does not work for everybody. But for Jahan and I, it's the only way we know, and it's the only way that I feel good about working through and creating from. So, yeah. I'm not a businesswoman first. I'm a musician first, through and through. I don't know how to think about, like, how can I capitalize off the market today? I don't know how to think about, like, okay, this song's really good, but if I just brought in this person to make it shinier, we could, like, hit the charts again. I don't know how to think like that. All I know how to do to this day, from day one till now, and I've learned a lot, but it's like the one thing that hasn't changed for both Jahan and I is, like, if we like what we're doing and it feels authentic to us, like, that's good enough. I don't care if the A&R doesn't like it. I don't care if it doesn't hit the charts. Like, that's how we feel. Yeah.
I think that really is the longevity there. I do think that the audience that found you guys understands that.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. I hope so.
Well, I mean, I think that it shows whenever you guys go back on tour, people are there.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's crazy to know that people connect with stuff that we made 12, 13 years ago and the stuff that we made yesterday. You know, it's like, not yesterday, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's really a testament to people growing with you. Like, the new fans too that, like, have just learned about us from the last record, that's amazing as well. But the people who have been there since day one, who have grown with us, I'm like, that's so fucking cool to be on a journey with people like that. Because my favorite bands, I'm like, I know what that feels like. My favorite artists, I know what that feels like.
Yeah.
And I love being able to deliver that to people. It's so cool. It's fucking crazy.
I want to tell everybody now, and I don't think that we've actually, like, talked through this, but I want to bring up all of the crazy intertwining of my world and the Krewella world and how it's brought so many of my friends together.
Yes.
It's actually it is the one, like, connection that I always bring up. I don't understand how this happened, what, the universe just made these things kind of happen. But yeah, to go all the way back, I mean, of course I heard Killing It. And yeah, I mean, I loved y'all's music. Like, everything that you guys would drop, I would play all the time.
Thank you.
With my friends, and he will come later in the story, but of course, our friend James remixed that song Mutrix.
Oh my God, best remix. Well, one of the best, because I love all of them, but, like, oh, it was so inventive.
Yeah. I actually listened to it this morning just to refresh my mind, just like, what did this sound like back in the day? And
oh my God,
there was totally nothing like that.
Nothing. It was inventive is the only word I can think of, because when we first heard it, I remember being like, who the fuck is Mutrix? Like, this shit is crazy.
Wait, how did that remix come about? I don't think
Our
James has ever told me that.
I think Jake and Nathan were just reaching out to certain people. We already knew some of them, like the Dirty Phonics. I loved them. I still love them.
Dirty Phonics, great.
God, they're still homies of mine to this day. And some of them were like Instagram DMs, but some of them were people that we didn't actually know or have a relationship with, and then we would go through management. But we had a long list of people that we were like, dream remixers. We would just go down the list and reach out to people.
Yeah, maybe we should talk about some of those. I'll know all of them, but so he'll come on later in the story. But so, of course, I'm listening to y'all's music. I believe, I can't remember if I'd met Sai yet. See, that's the funny thing. I don't know if I'm just going to go ahead and say that I don't think I knew Sai, but he had you guys on his radio show.
Yes.
And then I met you, which there's no way you remember this, because it was lights all night. It was just wild.
It was
like
chaotic.
Too many people. But I met you purely as a fan, I think that somebody invited me to Lights All Night, and so I had a VIP wristband.
Amazing.
And I was doing a lot of networking at Lizard Lounge in Dallas.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean,
that's the spot.
It was.
It was. I don't know if it's still.
No, it's not.
Oh no, is it closed?
Yeah, the pandemic.
R.I.P. Oh no, that hurts my soul.
Not only that, they tore it down.
Bro, why? Condominiums or some shit?
I think that they're like gentrifying the entire area.
It sounds like the Mid in Chicago. They tore it down for apartments. Classic
Deep
places.
Ellum, where Lizard Lounge was, is completely getting like renovated in various ways.
No.
That the chandelier in there lives on. It moved on, and I forgot. My friends in Dallas who are listening to this are going to kill me. It did move on to another place, I think.
Makes me happy. A little peace somewhere else. It's fine.
Yeah. Really sad. But I would go there at least 2 to 3 times a week. And I mean, but my whole thing was I was producing, and I wanted to meet other people that I could ask these nitty-gritty questions with. And funny enough, like almost all artists who did produce their music, like I could have these like dumb, stupid, down the rabbit hole questions like compressor settings and EQ things. And because they were like, oh shit, somebody else who can talk about this. Because YouTube wasn't
what it was today.
No, it wasn't.
Exactly.
It wasn't what it is today. Like you couldn't just go and get information. So I needed to get it from somewhere.
Yes.
So I don't know who invited me, but I went there and I had this VIP wristband. So I was in this VIP area, and I saw you, and I went up to you and I have no idea what I said, but
This was at Lizard or at Lights All Night?
Lights All Night.
Okay.
Yeah. And it must have just been like a fun little conversation. And I just remember like we took that picture. I took a picture, and it's stupid and goofy, but we just took a picture together. But I remember having a feeling of you were just like a genuinely kind person. And
Thank you.
That was that snapshot in time. And then later on, I get introduced to one of my best friends, Sai, and he said that he had you guys on. I was like, oh my gosh, I met her just like a day later or something like that.
Yes.
And then so we had this connection with you. And then fast forward in time, I moved from Nashville to LA, and I'm working for somebody as an assistant, and Ammunition, the album, comes through, and I just get a little giddy because I'm like, I have loved Krewella for so long. And now I'm getting to somehow work on.
And this is like 3.5 years later, I want to say.
That
3.
Yeah, it was 2016.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. It was the beginning of March or something. It's 2016.
Yeah.
Whenever it was. And it was you two, and then I'm sure Nathan came through.
Nathan was there. Cody was there.
No, Cody came later.
Did he come later?
Yeah, so
no, you're right.
Cody,
you're right.
You guys did a Christmas track, or you did something after my time.
Not a Christmas track, but around Christmas.
Okay, around Christmas. All I know is there was like... It
wasn't a Christmas song.
Not a Christmas song.
It was actually Team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you know that song.
I do.
We mixed that at that studio, but yeah.
Yeah.
But you weren't there anymore.
No, I had quit.
You were there for all of Ammunition, though.
I was. Yep.
So if you know that EP, Austin worked on it.
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I did. And yeah, so you guys came through, and I just like it was such an awesome circular moment that I've loved you guys for a while, and then I got to play a very, very small role, but a role.
No, mixing is a huge role.
But
never downplay.
I wasn't the mix engineer, though.
I feel you, but you were a part. You were a part of the team.
I was a part of the team. And yeah, I remember you guys coming in, and Steven was there, though. Steven was a producer on some of the tracks, right?
Are you talking about Steven Swartz?
Mm-hmm.
He worked on one track.
Okay. He did come in the studio, though, one day.
He worked on Can't Forget You, which is one of the songs on Ammunition.
Yep, we worked on that one.
We wrote that with him.
Marching On.
Marching On was with Andrew Goldstein.
Yes, Andrew. I love you, Andrew.
You had him on, right?
Not yet. Actually, we had to reschedule, but I think I'll have Andrew on. I love Andrew.
I love him. I love that dude. I haven't seen him in years, but such a good dude. Okay, anyways.
So we had that relationship, like that I got to work on this album. And then I left LA because of I was just so dead and jaded with music.
I actually did not know that.
Yeah. We'll
left
talk
and
about
came
that
back.
off camera.
For another time.
Yeah,
For
I don't.
later.
It's just like, it's so deep and hurtful time for me. And
Yes.
just like your 2014. And I just don't like talking or giving light to the person who
I
made me feel that
understand.
way. And
Fully get it.
yeah. So then
Where did you go?
I went back to Dallas.
Okay.
I
How
went
long were you in Dallas before you came back?
I was in Dallas for 9 months.
Okay.
I actually haven't said this on this podcast. And I mean, I feel like, let me straighten up here for you guys watching, so I'm not slouching during my come up story or my comeback story.
Come back.
Come back.
Don't call it a comeback, baby. You were already there. You just needed to find it again.
I did.
Yes.
I went back to Dallas and I just needed to feel solid ground. I was like the most happy-go-lucky human, and everything seemed to just be going my way, like in the best way, not in any other way. Just like I was putting in the hard work and cool things were coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really got socked in the face, and just like I had to lay down for a bit
Yeah.
and nurse the wounds. And so I went back to Dallas and I got my insurance sales license.
Oh, shit.
I sold insurance.
Bro.
I-
Side quest. Full side quest.
Absolutely.
I would have never guessed. By the way, there's nothing wrong with selling insurance. It's just not what I would.
No, it's a 180 from.
You're just like, music is your calling. It is your purpose. And
Yeah.
I just wouldn't see it.
Yeah.
But it's part of licking the wounds. It's part of the healing. So you got to just go on a side quest sometimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was no way that I would be standing here or sitting here doing what I do if I hadn't gotten socked in the face in the job.
Yes.
And if I hadn't gone back and sold insurance and felt solid ground. I was selling home, auto, and some life insurance.
Umbrella policy, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, you make a little bit extra commission.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah, and so I did that for 9 months. I think it was 9 months. That's just the number that came into my head. I'm trying to think. It had to have been because I started somewhere around January and I went on a 4-month trip in November. So
Less than a year.
yeah, less than a year, but long enough that I felt solid ground. And I guess I could talk about this on this podcast because I don't know if I'll get in trouble with any algorithm type things or whatever. But yeah, then I had my first psychedelic trip with mushrooms.
Amazing. I love mushrooms.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll get in trouble.
Okay.
Should we whisper about this part?
Yeah, I don't want anybody to hear,
Okay.
but I do.
I really
Also.
do. You should do mushrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, but don't. I didn't tell you that. Hear it from me.
It
It changed your life.
yeah, it took somebody who was
I'm not going
just
to keep whispering.
I liked it for a second. It took somebody who's incredibly jaded with music. I actually did not really listen to music. I uninstalled Ableton, Pro Tools, the whole 9 yards.
You sound like me right now. This is me right now.
So now it's the mirror.
Okay.
Now it's a mirror for you.
Sorry, go on.
I deleted every music software, every plugin,
Bro.
every sample, everything. I didn't turn on my radio in my car. I was that hurt with I don't know where I thought that I had
Yeah.
reached up here.
Yeah.
I think I touched the sun too quickly and I fell back down and
Little Icarus story.
exactly.
I got you.
But this Icarus did not drown. That's the thing. I had a trip, and legitimately 3 days later, because it took a moment for the medicine to affect me, but I was taking a shower one morning and I was getting ready to go in to sell insurance, and I just started bawling. Like, you couldn't tell what was shower water, what was my tears. It was just coming
Yes.
down. But I had, for the first time, I was humming and singing random melodies and playing just drums on the tile in the shower.
Mhm.
All of my passion for music and everything came back in times
Whooshed
10.
back in, yeah.
And it hit me so hard. And I had a goofy little Amazon drop shipping business that I started while I was at this insurance company.
Mhm.
And kind of overnight, it didn't become so goofy anymore. I started selling these hilariously ball canning jars. I had listed
Oh.
thousands of products.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I didn't know what canning season was. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Bro.
But these ball
It's
jars
big.
started flying off the shelf.
Yep.
But like to the tune of $30,000 in a month, where I didn't like, I had 7 VA, so virtual assistants, like people in the Philippines who this is what they do. They
Yeah.
get to provide for their family,
Yeah.
getting paid US dollars, which is very strong over there.
Yes.
And I was just going to town with them. Like we were trying to figure out how we can manage this many orders. And so I quit insurance and I just did this for a minute.
Amazing.
And I saved up money. And then Sai and another roommate and another guy were ready to go on a 4-month trip overseas. They were already doing it, and they asked me, and I was like, I have the money now. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're not
And
locked to a job like that.
I wasn't locked to a job. I had all the passion for music back, and so I went overseas and created music for 4 months.
Where'd you go?
Various places. So I went from, it started in Hawaii for 4 days. We just 4 days.
Yep.
And then from there, we went to Taipei for just 1 day because it was a layover. All of this was to get to the Philippines.
Yes.
So we went from Hawaii to Taipei. Malaysia might have been in there just on a layover. But really, we went to Manila for 1 day. That was where we had to land. And we explored just that night. But then we went to like all over Palawan.
I don't know what area of the Philippines that is.
It's like this beautiful island that's just like right off the Philippines, but it's part of the Philippines.
Yeah.
So all over there, and I'm forgetting the Boracay, El Nido. There were a few other places, but so we were there for a while, and then we were in Cebu City. And then me and Sai got our diving license.
Oh, cool.
And so we were diving. We dove like over 20 times in the Philippines.
Damn.
It cost nothing.
Damn.
And then we just got to be in nature and create.
Yeah.
So then we went from there. Sai went to Japan. And I went with the other guys to Australia. And so we were there for about a month and just exploring Australia. And then I went to Japan for 2 solid months and just explored their culture.
That's
and
awesome.
all that time I was making music. I'm going on here about a story, but I've never really shared this, and
good. Share
you feel like a safe space to talk to.
Share it. It's your podcast. The people should know.
But it's about you. But you kind of unlocked this in me, and I think that's kind of beautiful.
Good. I'm glad.
So, yeah, I created all this music over there, and then there was just a moment. I went alone to Japan, and there was this moment where pretty much everyone in Japan only speaks Japanese.
Yes.
There are various people who do speak some English, but I really couldn't connect with anybody language-wise, just like through music or through gestures or, there's some Japanese words that I could look up or knew. But there was this moment where on one hand, I just felt incredibly lonely, because it's hard to connect with anybody, right? So you're just learning so much about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one moment where I knew right then, it was so weird. It was this very, very deep feeling of if I go back to LA right now, right this second, I am going to succeed. You have everything you need. You got the passion and drive back.
Yep.
You've got like 6+ years of actual like professional work under your belt.
Yep.
Yeah, it may have been in the past and shit, I have no credits from that time. I was not credited for anything. And it was like, but that's okay.
The rage I feel.
Yeah.
I just like,
that's what it is.
It's more like I'm a big credit where credit is due person, which is why anyone who's ever said that Jahan and I have used ghost producers, I'm like, no, I will credit everybody for always, end of time. And I hate when people don't. I hate when people don't. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in the music industry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
It takes a team. Music is a team sport.
It is. Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Team.
Yeah.
Team. But I just keep on coming back to that. I wasn't a part of that record, but I like it. Yeah. And then I just went back out to LA. And then there's so much more there. But that's that. Wow. This all got a detour.
Journey, though. Like, I hate to... it's so funny when I hear phrases come out of people's mouths. Sometimes I'm like, oh, fucking sing these words. But it's true. Like, I feel like when you know you're on your hero's journey and you can tap in and really pay attention to your intuition and your gut, because I feel like we spend so much time ignoring our gut, ignoring our feelings, bypassing ourselves because I should do what I'm supposed to, or this person expects something of me, or I'm a people pleaser, and if I do that, like, these people won't be pleased, like, whatever it is. But when you're truly on your hero's journey, you are listening to your gut instincts and you are following them wherever they take you. And it sounds like you really fucking followed it.
I did. That was
Amazing.
The one time I think in my life that I was an autopilot for some higher whatever. It was just like
the muse was controlling you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Here is the road. Just take it. Say yes. There were so many reasons why I should have said no.
Yeah. You can always find a reason to say no.
Yeah.
You know that I'm gonna bring up a fucking Lady Gaga song, but whenever I heard that song, that she has that lyric about like there's a million reasons to leave, but I just need one good one to stay. Like, I have applied that to like that lyric in itself has been like, okay, even if I have one good reason to do something fucking crazy, I think I might do that crazy thing. Even if there's a million reasons that are telling me that I gotta just like, no, I should stay put, or I should save the money, or I gotta do this for work. Like, no, like I'm trying to listen to that instinctual thing. It's so important. It's so important.
Yeah. Well, after that long trip, now I'll come back to more things that are in line with Krewella. And I find okay. I had to say all of that to say, like, the first week I'm back in LA, I'm legit.
I don't know about this yet. We haven't gone into this yet. Tell me.
No, I don't think we have. The first week that I was back in LA, I was crashing on Sai's floor on an air mattress. He was staying in Hawthorne. You guys had a show, I think it was an OC, but I can't remember.
Okay.
I don't even know what the club is called.
Do you know what year it was?
Yeah, 2018. It was something down the coast.
Okay.
We had to drive.
Was it San Diego or was it the OC? Okay.
No, it wasn't San Diego. Okay. It was like an hour drive.
Okay.
I saw, I guess, on social media or something that you guys were playing the show.
Nightclub?
I don't know what it...
Maybe. I'm trying to like dig back into the
memories. Oh, I can give you... Mike Lisanti was tour managing that.
It was Time.
It was one show that he did, I think.
Time Nightclub, I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong. But anyways, so you came, you pulled up. Yeah,
so funny enough, like I saw that you guys were playing this, and I still had your manager's email or something from my time at that other place. I was like, hey, I would really love to come out and see the girls. I worked on Ammunition. I was just making a play.
Dude, absolutely.
I was like, but I really love these people. Like they felt good. Like good people, and I want to be around them. And so I was like, oh my God, I'd love to see them. So we drive down there. We go to the show. We are, like, you guys are playing, and we are like behind you guys.
Yeah, the VIP booth is right behind, if I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Yeah, so we're standing there, but we like totally feel out of place because we haven't said hey to you guys. And there are some people that are like, they own some mega fucking weed company. Like, they bought out 2 of the areas behind you guys, just have bottles everywhere. I'm like, okay, Sai, we are so out of place. This is whatever. But you know, we have these like one ties to these girls. So we're here. Yeah. Okay. So the show's done, and we want to say hey to you guys, but you guys run off stage. And
where did we run to? No.
I'll tell you. We go over to this elevator. And we're riding down to the parking garage because you guys are like leaving.
Yeah.
we happened to be in the elevator with
Amazing.
Mr. Mutrix.
Amazing.
And this is where we meet James. I'd never met James, but this is why...
Was Devin with me at that show? Because then that would explain why James was there. Because I love James. We're tight, but Devin and him are like best friends.
There was somebody else in there, but I don't think it was Devin. But it could
Devin
have
and I
been.
were dating then. So like he was definitely there if he was in town. This is so crazy. Sorry, I'm just
Damn.
trying to connect the dots.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
But I didn't meet Devin then.
Okay.
But James goes, hey, you look familiar to me. And we'd never met. It just like probably...
Did you know who he was?
Nope. I think it was
You
just...
just knew him by name. Like,
No, I didn't know him at all. He goes, hey, you look familiar. My name's James. I was like, dude, I'm Austin. And so I was like, I'm Sai. We gave him a hug on the elevator. And then he was like, how do you guys know the girls? And I was like, oh, I had worked for this guy. And, you know, we worked on some of their songs. He's like, oh, I go by Mutrix. Back in the day, I did a remix. I was like, dude, of course, I know that remix. That's awesome.
Yes.
And so, you know, then me and James become really tight. He comes over like several times that same week to our house in Encino. But we said bye to you guys in the parking lot, just like this briefly, because you guys had to hop on a plane to play a show like
that makes sense. In Vegas.
Yes. Right then.
It was a Vegas show. I feel like there's no other thing it could be. Maybe there is something else it could be, but it seems like it would be Vegas. We did a lot of those like 2-for-1s with Vegas sets.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there was that. And then I would randomly see you. There was one day that you were going to meet Devin. Me and Sai were eating at some pizza place.
And we walked by
Yes.
in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
Was it
somewhere.
in Silver Lake? Wasn't it that Thai restaurant on Silver Lake Boulevard?
I don't know. You walked literally right by. I was like, Yazzie. And you came back. It was like, oh my God, guys,
Yes.
It's so great to see you. I'm meeting Devin right now at so-and-so place. I still hadn't met Devin. But so you just kept on coming up in our life. And it was like, I mean, LA is a pretty big place.
And I don't leave the house that often. And I'm not just that you know this. Like, I don't leave the house that often.
I mean, you're a homebody, but I love that. It's probably because you're on the road so much.
True.
But this just keeps on going. I hadn't met Cody yet. And me and Cody grew up in Dallas together.
Oh, yeah.
We had the same friend groups, literally. We went to the same shows, everything. We never met.
We are so deeply connected and don't even realize it. All of us.
I know. It's crazy. But Cody reaches out. No, sorry. This is how this even gets deeper. James invites me to a dodgeball event and that Cody is throwing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I've always wanted to meet Cody. We literally, we know of each other, but we had never met. So I go there and I meet Devin.
Yep. I wasn't there though.
No.
Yeah, I remember I skipped out because I'm really bad at dodgeball. I'm not joking. That's literally why I skipped out. I'm like, I will be out the whole game. So I'm not gonna come.
I love that. I mean, I get it, you know? It was
I'm
hot.
like
It was
the
hot as
picked
hell
last
too.
bitch in school. Like nobody wanted me on their team for anything, especially dodgeball. But go on.
Whatever. I mean, it would have been fun. It was a Halloween thing, but I met Devin. But James invited me. Then I meet Cody.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic basically strikes. Oh, I met Maggie that day as well. And then I ended up mixing.
I remember this, yes. Well, I wasn't there, but I remember all of this happening, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, more weird things like I met Maggie and then I ended up mixing her record. I didn't know who Maggie was, but, you know, now me and Cody know each other. And, then the pandemic happens and things just shut down. I didn't talk to Cody or anybody, but whenever that started tailing out, then me and Cody started hanging out. And then, finally I hung out with Devin at, do you know the Petite Hermitage?
Yeah.
So I'm with Justin, Krewella, and Ronit.
Yeah.
James shows up with Devin, and then me and Devin hit it off, and we just like talk.
Crazy.
And then, you happen to be at something that we were at, and then, I mean, it's a lot of just things that
for sure.
kept on connecting.
It's kind of insane even when you mention like Justin Krewella. I met him in like 2012 at a show in like North Carolina.
No way.
Yeah.
I mean, where he's from.
Exactly. But it's just stuff like that I'm like, certain people have just kept showing. They just like repeat as a pattern. And eventually I'm just like, no, it's not a pattern. It's like meant to just be there. All these people are just meant to know each other.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I
It's
love it.
wild. I love
I
it
love
too.
it so much
Yes.
because I feel like I have, at this point, so many good memories with you. While one of them, I was totally going through the shit.
For sure.
But
besides that,
yeah.
we got some good stuff to discuss, apparently.
Yeah, well, this one is really great. I actually had my buddy Mitty on. He's an amazing producer. I had him on Saturday, and I asked him, but I think that you're going to have a different perspective on this, which I want.
Yes, please. Tell me.
How do you go about picking a manager? And the reason I'm asking this is because I know that you've had various managers, but then after Jake, and I want to hear about that as well. But I think that from what I heard, you not interviewed, but interviewed a ton of different managers.
Yeah.
Because I think you figured out what you were really looking for.
Yeah.
But why did you guys leave Third Brain? And what was it like in between that and finding a manager? And how did you land on a manager?
So it was really interesting because Nathan wasn't part of Third Brain, but he partnered with Jake, whose company was Third Brain, is for Krewella. So we had like Nathan, Lim & Co., and Third Brain partnering as our managers. Nathan was our original manager for 3 years. Then Jake came on in the end of 2011. And then up until, was it 2018, I think? Yeah, 2018. We, over time, started maybe having a little bit of a different vision for Krewella. Like Jahan and I saw something else, and Nathan and Jake, or rather Jake, started to see something else. And Nathan, bless his soul, probably was managing music for longer than he ever wanted to. He had been wanting to get out and do something else with his life for a long time, but I think he stayed because we loved each other so much. Like genuinely, there are very few people outside of my family that I feel unconditional love for, and Nathan is one of those people that I just have so much love for him. And I think we held on because we had that. And I couldn't imagine not doing Krewella or doing Krewella without him. It just didn't make any sense. And it was a really emotional, it felt like a breakup, but a mutual, with so much love kind of breakup. I think for Jake, he had so many other projects. And I think he was trying to juggle a lot of things. And I think with Nathan, he was trying to get out. And we were like, you know what, guys? Why beat this relationship into the ground? I feel like we are mutually pulling away from each other. And let's leave with love. I'm still in touch with Jake. Jake's one of my fucking homies to this day. Nathan's my fucking family for life.
Yeah, he was at your birthday or a little surprise party.
I'm having dinner with him tomorrow. He'll always be in my life. So will Jake. Burning bridges or ending relationships poorly to me is such a cardinal sin. I don't ever want to do something that fucks someone over. I don't want to ever harm someone so much that they can't speak to me. It's just not how I do things. And so John's very similar. We just had this really amicable conversation. We were like, I think it's time to let go of each other. It was really sad. It was so emotional. Truly, I couldn't imagine a career without Jake and Nathan. And when we met we went to Red Light to meet with Steve and Fiona, who's our manager right now. And they just seemed to really want to let us be who we are. They had no grand ideas to make us something else. They were like, we love what you are. Let's take what you are and just elevate it. And I felt so seen. We had never worked with a woman in that capacity. I was so, I had so much desire to work with more women, and just seeing, so Steve was the main manager he was the president, I don't even know what to call him, of the electronic department at Red Light. He was the head, and Fiona was his point person. And so they were our team, the two of them together. And over time, I love Steve. I still love the dude. He's amazing. One of the most kind, gentlemanly people in this business. But over time, we were just working with Fiona so much more than Steve. that eventually she wanted to break away from red light and start her own company, and we left with her. Like, back to your question, like, how do you choose a manager? You have to know what you want for yourself first. If you want to be like Taylor Swift big and play fucking stadiums and have songs on the radio and like all that kind of stuff, you need someone who's going to be the vessel to take you there. But yeah, you have to know what you want. You have to know yourself. You have to know the kind of career you want. Yeah.
I think so. The one of the points here goes back to what we were saying earlier, that I think people have to fail forward,
Yeah.
because there's no way that you know what you want
Big
in a
time.
manager unless you've had a manager.
Yes.
There's no way you can know what you want in a relationship if you haven't had a relationship.
Yes.
You're just looking at like a fantasy.
Big time.
I want to ask kind of the main question of the podcast.
So it's changed a lot in my life. I don't think that it's a constant variable, and I think it changes as you change. But in the past few years, as I've like really healed my relationship with Jahan and gone back to being sisters first, it's one of the like definitely makes me super emotional, because I think we spent so much time in the dark with each other, spent so much time like with so much friction between us, still creating and living authentically in our career, but with a lot of tension and friction. I think healing our relationship has changed the definition of success for me. And it's something that I like always thought, but now I feel it. I embody it. You know, it's not just like this concept anymore. I feel like I'm embodying it. Is if my relationships with my closest loved ones are constantly and consistently growing closer and closer and closer, even centimeter by centimeter, I feel like I am successful. But I had to do so much other shit in my career to get to a point to realize that that's the most important thing to me. There was a point in my life where I wasn't, like back to the, like, you have to put everything else on hold and work super hard. Like, I was not the best girlfriend, sister, daughter, friend. I wasn't focusing on those things. I wasn't pouring my energy into those things. And looking back, I'm like, okay, I had to learn that. But now who I am today and what I think I will hold on to for the rest of my life, because it is so clear. It's so crystal clear. Most things in life are so confusing. Most things in life are full muck to me. But the thing that is my North Star, it's so crystal clear, is that my loved ones, the people who make this life is so temporary, right? Like, everything is temporary. Even things that take you to the end of your life, death will take everything away from you. The people who make you feel like there's some morsel of permanence is like, that's my definition, is like, I want to pour my energy there. And obviously, I'm a creative. I love waking up every day being like, I'm a fucking musician. I'm a creative. I get to make art for a living. Like, that drives me as well. But if I don't have the people I love in my life knowing that they can lean on me, rely on me, come to me, love me as I love them, like, I'm nothing. I'm nothing without that. So that's where I'm at right now. And I do think as I grow older, I will gather more gems of wisdom and knowledge, and I'll add to that. But right now, I'm like, that's my number one. That's my number one.
That's beautiful. I think about this podcast often as a time capsule where I really, really want to come back in like a year or two or something and talk and say like,
I'll be here.
This is what we talked about last time. And you could be like, oh God, this is where I'm at now. We're grinding again. We're on tour.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, because it's something that Jahan and I talk about, but I don't really like putting out there, because I don't want fans to hear this and think that something bad is happening. Nothing bad has happened to make me feel this way. But we will never tour the way we used to tour. We will never create the way we used to create. We will always factor in our mental health and our physical health above anything on our career. And that means that there's going to be a lot more time and space. It's not going to be grinding. And I won't do the grind and hustle anymore. I've tapped out of that life. I don't want, like, I hate to be so dark. Like, maybe I should say trigger warning for this, but like, I don't want to be doing something I should love and want to kill myself. Like, there are so many people, so many creatives who get to that point and actually do the worst. Like, they come to that worst moment because they are under a mountain of pressure and a mountain of feeling alone in a room full of people. Like, all of that has like overtaken their human experience. And I'm not going to sacrifice anything for that. Like, I'm not going to get there. And I'm never going to let Jahan, like my number one person, I'm never going to let her get there. I'm going to protect myself, and I'm going to protect her before I do anything. Sorry.
Thanks for sharing that. Did that feel good?
Yeah, because my relationship with Jahan, like, is the thing I've learned the most from in my entire life.
Well, I think on that note, you want to end it?
Sounds great. I really want to know how long we've been talking.
Oh, we'll find out in a second here.
Amazing.
Yazzie, thank you so much for coming on
Austin.
here.
Thank you.
It means a lot.
Thanks for letting me ramble. And if it weren't for the potion, I wouldn't have, but I did. So here we are.
The potion. I love that. It's never been called that, and I love it.
It felt like a potion.
Hell
I'm
yeah.
on another level right now.
Let's go.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So now that you've listened to this episode with Yazzie, I'm going to go through a couple of the really cool key points that I wrote down. This was an incredibly long podcast. It was actually somewhere around 4 hours. We chopped it down to 2. Thanks for sticking around. Some of that information was just way, way too good to chop. So I'm going to go through some of that. One of the first things that I noticed about Krewella, this is whenever I was listening to them. I mean, I love Krewella. But I remember how intertwined in their fan base they were. You may love their music, but I think really what made them huge is the connection that they had with their fans. And so me and Yazzie talked about how in the early days, they answered every single message that they got on social media. Every single person felt touched by Krewella. And I think that for artists today, I know a lot of you are doing that same thing. You are making sure to comment and whatnot to people who message you. But cultivating that very deep fan base of people that really feel invested in you is what made Krewella be able to stand this, very long test of time. If they were to announce a show right now, I guarantee you it would sell out. They have really dedicated fans. So great point there. I really loved this section where Yazzie talked about early on in Krewella, she would walk around the block with she had an iPod. That's what it was. She had an iPod, and she would listen to their demos in her headphones, just walking around the street, and she would sing them, and she would see herself on stage performing at massive, massive shows. And I really think that the manifestation there of just continually feeling like they were already larger than life, they were already doing what they wanted, already singing the songs that they're going to perform, or Yazzie, is going to perform. I can't help but think that really, really helped push her to become that great artist. Manifestation is just so important. One really awesome point that Yazzie brought up that I've talked about on other podcasts before is that she said that she could not be where she is without a team. She could not be where she is without, Chris and Jahan and Jake and Nathan and her other teammates. If we're trying to play at the top level, you need people around you that push you to be better, that push you to go beyond your limits, that believe in you, who don't just see you as a monetary resource, but as something special that they want to be a part of. Ultimately, you can't do these things alone. Finding people to surround yourself who are going to be core members of your team because they're great at what they do and they also love you for you, that's so important. If there are people surrounding you who are leeches, who are just trying to take money, who are not trying to push you to be the best version of yourself, who are not there for you, you have to get rid of them. To move forward in the right direction, surround yourself with great people. And last and not least, for sure, is something I touched on at the very beginning of this podcast, is to fail forward. I've talked about this on another podcast as well, the Crystal Method one for sure, where if you just have analysis paralysis, which means you think that you want to do X and you continuously think about it, but you never do it, you never move forward. If you want to become an artist, you have to put out music. If you want to go on tour, you have to play shows. If you want to, literally anything, just fill in the blank. Whenever you want to do something, just do it. You're going to fail. You're going to continuously fail. But each failure, you're going to learn something that you can implement into the next failure. And I feel like there was nothing that she said more resonant with me than my podcast right now. I have no idea what I'm doing. I love talking to people. I always talk to people, but I've never worked with a camera, really. I've never done it in a setting where there's lighting and whatnot, but I'm here having great conversations and I'm putting it out and I'm putting as much love into it as I can. So I'm certain that eventually this will catch on, and each season we're going to make the lighting better. We're going to make the audio better. We're going to make things better. But for now, I'm just putting as much love into this as I can, and I'm getting it out there so that I can see what I could do better. And I hope that that really helps you maybe get out of a little rut that you're in of not releasing or not doing something, because it's so important. The world wants to see your craft and your love, so give it to them. All right, catch you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Grounds for Success podcast. I want to thank all of the people who work on this podcast and help me out. My team is everything to me, and without them, I couldn't bring these to you every single week. I couldn't post on social media, with all the clips that we have, and so I thank you guys so much. I want to also thank all of my clients on the mixing and mastering side, because without you, I could not have Grounds for Success. So thank you so much. If you love this content and you want to keep on receiving it, please follow, subscribe, like on all of the platforms or whichever platform you use. I should probably say that again. Let me try that again. That was just like totally freeballed. Let's go with the second one maybe. Or actually maybe you could just like edit it together. But I want to say that last part again. If you're enjoying the Grounds for Success podcast, please follow, like, and subscribe on whichever platform you are watching or listening on. It really helps us out, and I want to keep on giving this content to you in whichever way possible. Let me shorten that. If you're enjoying the Grounds for Success podcast, If you're enjoying the Grounds for Success podcast, please follow, like, and subscribe on whichever platform you're listening or watching on. It helps us out a ton, and I want to keep getting this content to you in whichever way you listen or watch.